What's up? It's Mad Dad City, episode 7, I think. I got my man Chris here. Chris, CJ the Siege. Dude, you know I can't ever say your name without thinking of Steven Seagal for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
Siege. I don't know why.
Is that the name of one of his movies?
It must be like City Under Siege, I think, or something. But anyway, Chris is a good friend. Known him for, almost 30 years now. But having him on the show today to, talk a little doomsday prep. We're going to talk a little ice plunge, probably some aliens, who knows. Definitely some guns, I hope, because I need to get some guns. I want to get some guns. But Chris is, in addition to just being a good friend of mine for 30 years, he actually got a degree from KU in biodiversity, ecology, evolutionary biology. Cool sounding stuff. Definitely bests my communication degree. What is that anyway?
In terms of usefulness or what?
I don't know, man. Communication.
or time spent.
But yeah, dude, he's also a tree climbing competitor or former tree climbing competitor.
I'm a certified arborist, but I've competed in tree climbing competitions.
Why didn't you tell me? Certified arborist. I was asking you, what should I do
not
for your intro?
all certified arborists compete in the competition.
All right. So Chris is also a certified arborist, so stop cutting those trees. Anyway.
Do it right.
Yeah.
And safely.
Or cut them right and safely. Dude, I'll tell you, man, from the trees, I took my family to Northern California in 2019, saw all the sequoias, did, a bunch of hikes in those, the redwood forest. Probably one of the coolest places I've ever visited by far, dude. Almost like some spiritual experiences there, dude. Just, you're surrounded by these massive living, I'd call them creatures, thousands of years old. And it's like you just transport yourself back to the Jurassic era,
right? Just
walking through there, man. It was spectacular. Yeah, dude. Have you ever been?
I've been there in college a long time ago, but I wasn't old enough I appreciated it, but not old enough to have an experience like that,
For sure, man. Humboldt County is an interesting place. Mm-hmm. Lots of weed around that spot, for sure, for the Tri-County area. It's been that way since the 60s or 70s at least. I saw some documentary on Netflix recently about some Bigfoot murderers down there and so forth. It was
hunting them.
Yeah. Just cool stuff, man. But anyway, dude, I wanted to talk with Chris today regarding some doomsday prep skills, what to do, why to do it, and there's a reason for it. So I happen to personally believe that we are far more vulnerable as a society than what we generally accept, or just the general population is even aware of. So, and it's not just me making it up, man. Look around, kind of sense things just seem to be a little bit more divided, much more turmoil. Watching the news, we've been desensitized, but man, it's a freaking horror show on the news just about every night, right? Mm-hmm. But one thing that really brought it to my attention was there's an article I read a couple years back that really put me in my place as a father, as someone who's responsible for the security of a family. And if anything goes wrong, everybody's going to be looking to me to like what to do, right?
What have you been spending your time doing?
Yeah. Are you preparing or not, right? Are you at least ready if there's no food on the shelf at Hy-Vee or Price Chopper, or you go to Walmart and it's closed? What are you going to do, right? But there's a report that came out in 1972 from MIT scientists that predicted the path of humanity over the next several decades, considering trends in human population, industrial output, pollution, food production, and natural resources. And essentially, there were several different paths that we could choose as a society if we had enough collective willpower to actually accomplish some things together. But as time went on, people forgot about the report, of course. But in the early 2020s, this accounting firm, KPMG, I have no idea who that is, but they went back and analyzed the data from the MIT report and compared it with the trends and how things actually evolved over the last 50 years. And it turns out, man, that report was shockingly accurate. And we're on the path of the worst track predicted in that report, which is societal collapse within the 21st century. Collapse to where there's going to be a complete degradation of quality of life for humanity overall. And so, yeah, man, when you think about that, when you let that soak in, and I would encourage anybody that's listening both listeners that we have for my show.
You and I.
Yeah, that's right. When we go and listen to this again, go back and Google that stuff. 1972 MIT report on, collapse of society. Give it a read. It's like 30, 40 pages at least. Got a lot of data in there, and stuff that's in the 70s they knew, or at least they were saying, hey, here's the trends, here's the different directions we can go. Fast forward 50 years, we're on the worst case scenario track. So yeah, it's like, all right, I live in the suburbs. I rely on anything I need to survive is provided by all kinds of massive supply chains that are easily going to be shut down if there's an EMP attack, if there's a massive freeze that just, shock waves or just completely cancels out the power grid, or a heat wave that does the same thing, overloads the power grid, or any other scenario that just stops the supply chains that provide for us as a society. And I think a good example is, if you remember a couple years back, might have been in 2020, maybe early 2021, but it was that massive freeze that went over the state of Texas, and how within 48 hours, the state of emergency of people just needing water. Number one, water. Like, no one had enough water to last 2 days, 3 days. And it was real. It was almost dire straits. And that was Texas, who was completely unprepared for anything of that scale. That's just one state. And so that was like a shocker. It's like, all right, I got 3 kids. If we chop up my dog and eat them, it's only going to take, how much meat is that? Literally. Like, it's starting into survival mode.
I was thinking about that on the way here. Small game and that kind of thing around the property or the house. Would you be one to eat dog that was on tick repellent?
Yeah.
How would you know?
Yeah, those are the things, man. How would you even, so what are the things to consider, dude? Like, when you think about this, because this neighborhood is a nice, peaceful neighborhood. I like my neighbors. I say hi to them. There's a couple of them I'm friends with. However, what do they call it? The shit hits the fan, the acronym, it's the HH or the SHTFU or whatever.
Yeah.
If that happens, this neighborhood and all other neighborhoods like it, within 10 to 14 days, become a very different environment, right? People are not ready. Like, personally, if something happened, we have a little bit of water, a few canned goods, and a little bit of food. We could make it to August. You know what I'm saying? Like, after that, what are we going to do? So, yeah, man, I don't know.
This is kind of a very cynical topic, really.
Yeah. I think it's real. I think we should be more prepared. Personally.
I think it's happened before. And so to think that it wouldn't happen again, I think that's the most difficult thing. I don't seek this stuff out, but my mind just has always gone there. But what would you do? Yeah. And what would everybody else do?
Oh, well.
And would you freak out at the time that it happened? Would you recognize that it's what's happening?
Yeah.
And what would be the first thing you'd do? And hopefully it wouldn't be freak out.
Well, if you're not prepared and the reality hits you in the face, you're absolutely going to panic.
I think the best preparedness would be to at least think about it ahead of time. I'd run to the store like everybody else.
Right.
I would, and I'd clean house,
sure.
And then amongst other things being prepared. But at that point, get all the supplies you could, which would not be water, but it would be fucking gasoline. Fill up the tanks.
If you're not the first one there, within like 3 hours, the shelves of the stores are going to be wiped clean. The storage rooms, there's no trucks coming the next day to restock the shelves.
If you're not walking home from wherever you were, because your car,
the gas lines,
because it all shut down.
Yeah. So what can someone sitting in, if there's a listener out there that's a dad who hasn't thought of this, or a mom or anybody, what can they do to prepare?
Yeah, I hope it never happens. I think it's glorified to a certain extent on television, and I don't have military experience to be in some place where people live closer to this way already. It's all thought games to a certain extent.
If you've got a rural existence today if you're out living on a farm, you've got livestock, you're sustainable, you're going to probably survive.
I told my 15-year-old son and 9-year-old daughter, we were on a farm for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought that distance would give me about probably 4 months before you would get people. And granted, it was only 12 miles from a major city, 15 miles from a major city.
So people are going to be walking your way.
But it would give me about 4 months before people started to go out to those distances to explore. And I could be completely wrong. But I think
within a few days, if it was like dire straits.
But how would they get there? Yeah. There would be cars blocking the. So I think one thought exercise is what would this look like? How would it happen? Would it be? I don't think it's going. I think it's a policy issue.
Okay.
I really do believe that. Now, even in terms of if it was it's still a policy issue if there was something like a solar flare.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's still a policy issue.
Solar flare happens, knocks out the grid. We're not ready.
We could be
massive scale,
and you could be because you can insulate your electrical grid from that instead of acting like it's not going to happen.
Sure.
Like, I mean, in all the other ways we waste time and money on stuff,
So should society prepare? But let's just take it. I'm not going to count on the government itself to make decisions that are going to be ready if there's something at that scale. I mean, basically,
Sure.
They're going to have their emergency hideaways, their mountain resorts where they can go and spend the next 30 years from some nuclear disaster emergency center where they can all go.
Well, the reason I bring that up is I say it's a policy issue because if you don't want it to happen, if you don't want it to collapse, do what you can to prevent it besides preparing for yourself. Sure. One, prepare for yourself because what are the odds? It's gonna be very slow and tortoise-like to get anything to change.
No doubt.
And I'm not involved in anything on that level, but I listen to people who are. But I think that would be the first place to start. Right?
Okay. But let's assume that's not going to happen.
Okay.
Right. What are you for your individual?
So we're going to be
family?
targeted. We're going to be targeted.
Let's just say. All right. Let's just say tonight, something happens. You wake up tomorrow, right? Oh, okay, man. This part of the supply chain is cut off.
Sure.
Right. Takes a couple days for people to start really get in panic mode, but then a week from today, we're realizing, dude, there's nothing else coming.
Okay.
Right.
So either it's because gasoline's gone out or electricity's been knocked out, which means that gasoline won't do you any good because most people's cars are going to be stuck in the middle of
Or 12 months from now, 24 months from now, we're so reliant on AI taking care of all of these supply chain issues, a la Terminator, Skynet type stuff, and it shuts down. Mm-hmm. And immediately you can't use whatever communication devices we're using here in short order, sure. AI dependent. You can't, I mean, you go to the store and there's just nothing there. There's long lines of people, just frantic craziness. I'm talking about zombie attack. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. It'd be extremely sad. I would hope our children never, I have to preface all this by saying, I hope I never experience it.
That's of course.
But, so food and water,
mm-hmm.
You're not going to have water flowing out the tap.
Nope. So
how are you going to and what are you going to do to, once you get through your stores? So filtration system.
Okay.
That
so
you can
need
move
a filtration system.
That you can move with too.
A mobile filtration system. All right. I don't even know where to start with getting a mobile filtration system.
Sure.
Right.
You want to talk about that?
Let's do it.
Have you ever heard of a Berkey?
No.
It's a gravity-fed carbon filter that the fact that it's not forced through makes it, if it was being forced through the carbon, wouldn't be as effective. But the fact that gravity is just pulling on it and that's the only pressure that's going through it makes it more effective because it spends that much more time going through the filter element.
So you would
so it will take down chemicals, pesticides,
right.
bacteria.
So you could grab water. If you don't have enough water supply to sustain you for a while, you could set up some sort of collection device on the drains of your roof or something, and then filter that water. Pull from any water supply.
Yeah, a pool.
All right.
Which I think is huge because who wants to sit there and boil water and spend time doing that and all the
Have you seen those devices that I've read about recently, where solar powered just collects water out of the humidity of the air and filtrates, a couple gallons a day worth?
Yeah.
Looks like something.
The only thing that would make me balk at that is that, let's say the scenario was that China flew over another spy balloon. Okay, World War III. It'll rhyme, but it won't be the same if it happens. But it's not going to be a straight on attack. If for instance, China, I'm not
a global
saying,
war of some kind.
You'd before you invaded a country, why wouldn't you just take out 70% of the population by making life so inconvenient for them that they kill each other
The
or just
logistics.
die?
Well, I think that might be happening.
So your solar panel is not going to do you any good.
Your solar panel,
your electrically powered water filtration system is not going to do you any good, unless you don't know when something electronically could come and take it out.
Okay.
Right. So unless you have it in a Faraday cage.
All right. So you need
to
filters.
Protect it.
Water-wise, obviously,
Yeah.
Oxygen would be number one. I mean, if we can breathe, hopefully you don't need gas masks to survive.
I don't have a gas mask.
No, I know. I don't have any of this stuff either.
Yeah.
I have a couple of gallons of water in a closet. Okay. And then we have our water heater, which I'm sure is a supply you could get into temporarily.
Sure.
Obviously.
What about
50 gallons?
50 gallons, yeah.
50 gallons worth of water there. So let's say you get to some oxygen, you got water, then what, man? We don't have livestock. I don't have chickens roaming around.
My first marriage, I got myself into some trouble. Amy is her name, and she went out of town for a weekend, and I was thinking about this, and this is kind of one of those topics that can put you on, to a certain extent, make you. Most people aren't comfortable talking about it.
No,
I think it's becoming more popular, but a little bit of the lunatic fringe, right? Like,
yeah, I try to bring it up with just casual conversations, and people are like, "Okay, doomsday."
I tell Megan now, I'm like, okay, what good is any money you have if you can't survive to use it?
Right.
It's
Cash would be
small
worthless.
investment to
What's
be
money
prepared.
gonna use?
But I got myself in some trouble when she went out of town for 2 nights with our son, and I went to Whole Foods and bought some 50-pound bags of rice and beans and put them in a foil bag, like a nice. I bought the Mylar bags, I think they were, and put
airtight.
Yeah, silica gel in there, and then it was I can't think of the names, lost me, but it pulls out the oxygen of it too, and you zip it shut, pull it in, and then it pulls it shut.
How long is that gonna last for? 10, 15 years?
I think I had without oxygen in there, can last indefinitely without moisture. Okay. But I moved, put it in a barn. Some of it started to get torn into, or the seals didn't last, and then some of it was either a mix of things, and I just ended up getting rid of it. But long story short, I didn't ask to spend the money. Not good.
Yeah.
And then a little bit hasty in terms of the step-by-step process to get it together. I mean, it was good intentions, right? Like it could have lasted, but
you'd have been a hero if something would have happened and you'd have had the supplies, right?
I would have had the lentils and rice.
There you go, man. That would have sustained
no
you for
beef
a
jerky.
minute.
I didn't buy any beef jerky, which I should have.
That would have sustained you for a minute, man. If there is some sort of global catastrophe that shuts off supply chains, I don't think that 99% of the population we're so reliant on these conveniences that have just infiltrated our complete expectations of the fact that, it's all going to be okay. But to your point, like the folks that are out there in denial of the fact that we are in a much more vulnerable state as a society, we're not prepared as a society. So like our as leaders of a family, it is on us to have something ready, right?
Yeah.
So you can't. There's not going to be let's say you tackle the air is clean so you can breathe, and you got enough water for 60, 90 days at least, whatever the case is, right? You got to ration it out. We're not taking some sort of hot shower or anything like that, but we can drink water if we need it. We can wash some plates and dishes to utensils or something, right? Clean food with.
Are you planning on holding up at home?
I'm not planning on anything yet. I'm trying to figure out what a plan should be. So, obviously, I'd love to have a hideaway
Sure.
in some rural area
Sure.
with all kinds of, some sort of shelter.
Do you have family that lives anywhere out in the rural area that you can get to?
No.
Yeah.
No, my parents live 15 minutes away,
Yeah.
and they're in a suburb too.
Yeah. Little bit of a shit show, I'd think, because I don't think you'd be wanting to. Either you boogie out of town before everybody knows what's going down, because you got to think about opportunistic people as soon as they know what's happening.
I think you need an escape pod. So
I'd love to know how to fly a helicopter.
Yeah, we need a helicopter. But if you don't have a helicopter, which I don't have a helicopter yet. Emphasis on yet. But I think you need a Sprinter van, right, where you can house 5 people. I mean, you get a little couch and all that stuff. But you got to be stocked and loaded and ready to go, to where if something happens, you hop in the Sprinter van and you can get 500 miles away.
Have you seen these flat free tires you can get? They basically put a
I
rubber donut around the wheel that if your inflatable tire goes out, that you can still run to a certain speed.
Yeah, I've seen tires that don't go flat.
Well, so those won't work on high speed wheels. Like they have them for wheelbarrows, but these are for cars. They're like $650 a piece.
Really?
Yeah.
So you need something there. But I mean, that's the best I could think of. But obviously, the Sprinter vans themselves, the good ones that would have some sort of terrain, all terrain or 4x4 capabilities, and are big enough to stock supplies that you would need, guns, ammo, bows and arrows, whatever, seeds to restart somewhere. If you can find somewhere in, northern Canada that wasn't affected or is, the place to settle due to climate change or whatever the case is. One, how are you going to get there? Two, I can't afford a Sprinter van right now. Those things are 150, 200K, the good ones.
Yeah.
They're going to get you somewhere. But I think that's the escape pod that you could have. So, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, I guess I'll hunker down. My hope would be we got enough supplies, and maybe you need some wood to like cover your windows, and just maybe enough guns and ammo to protect your home, and let all the people who are unprepared kill themselves and die out over the next 4 to 6 weeks. And then, in 6 weeks, you look out the window, you sort of gauge, you see maybe one other guy down the neighborhood who also was prepared, and then you can, get a little coalition of the folks that were prepared and come up with a plan for the long term. I don't know, man. I got no idea. It's a zombie movie.
I think the way I think about it is, in terms of preparedness, is to think about it if it actually did happen, right? So go through those steps. You want water, like we talked about.
Yep.
Food, whether that's dehydrated food, stocked up on stuff that you can, beef jerky and fats, like meat and fats. You need protein and fats, and fats will store. You can get ghee or coconut oil or anything that you can do to keep your body going, because it's not going to survive on carbs.
That's right. Okay. So beef jerky would last a long time.
It would. I think it'd be a good call, but it's very lean.
Yeah. Okay. So just straight up fats.
Yeah.
Proteins, fats.
In my opinion.
Okay.
It's the way I try to eat now, so I can enjoy the things I enjoy. That.
So I'm not gonna get my Captain Crunch peanut butter with my 2% milk very easily. I don't have any cows.
And then, how would you get more food?
Yeah, so you're not gonna be able to go hunt, right?
There's
going to be millions of people also needing food, and there's no food supply.
I think. That's right. So if it happens, like you said, do you go and start buying a sheet of plywood once a week now so that you can work it into your budget and store it up?
Store up the plywood, hammer, have that stuff ready like it's some sort of hurricane preparedness, except you're just boarding yourself in for the next 6 weeks in your own home, sitting there with a gun on your lap waiting for someone to break in. Like, what do you do? Right? And how do you keep your family from going stir crazy during that time? Or, if you got young kids, which we both do, how do you keep from them just being totally scared out of their minds during that time, right? Like, I don't know. Like, it's a dire situation.
To kill.
Shoot to kill.
Cooper, shoot to kill.
I got to train. Man, my oldest son, 13, I need to train myself. I don't have any weapons. I think you had mentioned you built a rifle lately, home bought.
Yeah, so shout out to Simmons Gun Supply in Olathe, Kansas.
Simmons Gun Supply. This episode brought to you by Simmons.
It's an enlightening experience because small guns can be somewhat simple, but do you ever really take them apart? You do take them apart to clean them, but bigger guns like AR platforms.
Okay.
Not terribly expensive when you learn how to work on it yourself, which is fairly straightforward series of springs and pins.
Okay.
Talking maybe $360, $400 to build your own.
Okay. I could do that.
But yes, we went, my son Salem and I went to Simmons Gun Supply and built an AR-10 and an AR-15. So
wow.
So the AR-10 shoots a 308 Winchester cartridge, which that's about how many double the amount of gunpowder that a 556 NATO, which is an AR-15, takes. So not so much a larger bullet.
Okay.
But the amount of gunpowder that it takes, so it's going to be more of a long range shot.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like it would work if you needed it to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have any guns, man. That's one thing is like, say what you want about, the political debate of guns or no guns. The fact is, the folks that have guns today are going to be the ones that are going to be much more likely to survive if there is some sort of, complete shutdown of society.
Well, I mean, without having researched it too much, but you brought up the MIT study. I think there's also studies on what happens in countries where the guns have been taken from the populace.
Okay.
It's one of the stages of what's to follow. People, and there's a fair amount of instances where people die without guns. I think they're great.
Yeah,
I think they're great.
I think I've removed myself. Obviously, I think the day-to-day of just standard civilian life would be a lot safer if no one had guns. Sure, because people don't. If you don't have guns, then just people don't die for senseless reasons. When you get into an argument and one person's having a bad day and they just happen to have a gun and say, "Oh, I'm just going to react on emotion and shoot somebody for no reason," road rage type stuff. However, yeah, man, and if there's an actual need for weaponry to defend yourself, I think it's important as well. I'm not even trying to get into the debate of should we or shouldn't we have guns.
Sure.
You can't unring the bell. The United States.
You can have them.
Yeah, the United States is 5% of the world's population.
And you would love to have it if something was to go down.
No doubt. No doubt. You need protection. And look, we used to live in North Carolina. When we lived in North Carolina for 2 years, everybody else had guns.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm pretty sure just about everybody here in my neighborhood has guns today. The United States is 5% of the world's population, and we have half of the world's guns. So yeah, I need to get some guns in case.
Well, I agree. The argument that I would make if somebody was to say you don't want to be prepared, generally don't want to be prepared, like I wouldn't want to live in a world like that kind of mentality. Well, like I just let me go. If you have children,
sure.
This is what I say. Would you wish you were prepared when you're holding your child because you don't have water or food to give it and you're watching them go? Like, I think at that point in time, you would say, fuck.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's assume, man. I mean, look, nobody wants this to happen. It's about preparedness, and I think the reality is, as much as I hope it's not the case, as much as I don't want this to actually occur, I think we're the likelihood of something like this happening on a scale is a lot greater than the general population wants to acknowledge.
Sure.
Right. And so in that reality or that probability being higher, then yeah, man, I think it's good to at least be thinking and researching and budgeting, slowly preparing just in case. Because obviously, man, if you can't go get yourself some supplies and you can't protect yourself because you just got lost in the standard conveniences that we have that we rely on today, and you've entertained yourself to a point where you don't consider what if things collapse on us, then you're going to be one of the first to go. And there would be an argument there that those would be the lucky ones, right? Because it's not like survival is going to be fun, after that. There's not going to be 4th of July parade to go to. Or You're not going to be hanging out at the pool over the summer. You're going to be scrounging for scraps to find something to eat.
I think there's a reason why people are scared of guns and preparedness. And I'll just speak about guns. And I'm not above telling myself, delusional tales for in other areas of my life where I'm not prepared. Like it's a way to insulate yourself, and because there's a fear of not being competent, and until you go to O'Reilly enough until you've changed your brake pads 3 times on your own and go to O'Reilly often enough and begin to talk with the people behind the counter who are familiar with vehicles and mechanical
I don't know any of that
situations. It's just the same with a gun, and I think that it's really not that difficult. You just got to have the right tools and also just be around it. But I think that I think there's to a certain extent, the population is afraid of guns and other things of such because unfamiliarity with it, and it's just like anything else. You just not be afraid of learning something new.
Look, it doesn't hit the headlines in good ways.
Anybody can do it, though. It's
all right. Well, dude, let's switch gears because that's a fun topic. I love to get into it. I think at the end of the day, man, think about it. If you're listening to this and you haven't thought about it, think about it. Try to research and prepare yourself a little bit if you're responsible for others that are going to look to you on what to do if there's nothing at the grocery store to supply yourself with, right? But dude, Chris, we've talked about in the past, and you've built some sort of ice plunge mechanism at your house, I believe, right? Have you? I'm a big proponent of this. If you're not familiar with the story of the Iceman Wim Hof, which I know you are, but if any of our listeners are not, go check this dude out. Wim Hof, he's the Iceman. Look up his story, understand what he's done and how this ice plunge routine that he has changed his life for the better. But I need to learn from you on how to set up a sustainable ice machine that I can set up for the ice plunge benefits, or just, so I can have something here at the house to take the daily ice plunge, man. That stuff is real. I've done it. I've taken, the ice cold showers. I like to, if I had the ability to have one that was ready to go every single day, I would take a daily ice plunge. The benefits are fantastic, man. I mean, your mood benefits, your immune system. What is it? The vagus nerve, I think, is what it's called, or whatever. The stimulation, the brown fat burning, all of that stuff. But man, it's a lot of maintenance to have an ice plunge ready to go at your house every single day. So, did you build something, or what do you do?
I do. There's 2 parts to Wim Hof's method, and one's the breathing, and one's the cold exposure. So I learned about it from my wife's dad, who was into Wim Hof, and so I started looking into it. And the breathing's free. It takes about 15 minutes to do the prescribed method, but it's
a 15-minute exercise.
Depending upon how many rounds you do, probably one round takes about 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
But it's a series of breathing and then breath holds, and you can watch yourself be able to hold your breath for longer and longer because you're basically forcing your body to store away oxygen and all the nether regions. The oxygen usually doesn't go, and so it's great for a lot of reasons because the breath hold, oxygen deprived environments tend to not do so well, right? Yep. Cancer, disease, and that kind of thing. So it'll change your digestive system, all kinds of stuff.
So just the breathing method itself.
Yeah, because the breathing it leads to be able to hold your breath for the longest I've ever held my breath for is 2 minutes and 40 seconds, which is a long time. But some people go for much longer.
I bet you I could get 30 seconds.
You'd be able, if you did 3 or 4 rounds of the breathing, you'd watch it increase, and it's nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the record? Isn't David Blaine got like an 18-minute?
I don't know.
Submerged tank, something like that.
I know that Wim Hof has climbed mountains where usually people need oxygen tanks in multiple days. He's done it in a day without oxygen.
I have seen, where Wim Hof will, in shorts and a T-shirt, run up Mount Everest and come back down.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
One of the most wild experiences I've had with the breathing is I've had the back of my left pelvis has been I had just like a joint pain for the longest time. And I think it was probably really muscle tension from an imbalance. But just by doing the breathing, I mean, that was there for 10 years.
What is it, like
gone away?
Stress release to where
your muscles
blood
all,
flow.
yeah.
So this is all breathing, but were you doing that in conjunction with
Before,
the ice
so
plunge?
you want to do the breathing. So what Wim Hof says is that the breathing helps your body be able to better handle the cold.
Yep. Okay.
So
Makes sense.
do it before you get in the cold. I don't always do the breathing, but I
do
do the cold.
I'll look into the breathing exercises. All I've done is, so there have been times where I've, gotten the ice every single day and done it for a couple of weeks at a time, which is great. But eventually, I just tire out on the daily maintenance of filling up the ice and so forth. But during those times where you submerge yourself in 35-degree water for several minutes at a time, all I did was just breathe deep, hold it, and then breathe out as much as I could. And that in of itself helps to pass the 3 minutes because early on, that's a long ass 3 minutes.
So it takes what the studies are that 11 minutes over the course of a week of cold exposure to kick your brown fat back in. So babies have a lot of brown fat because they don't shiver, and so that's what helps keep them warm. It burns.
Babies don't shiver?
It burns white fat. Brown fat burns white fat, and it also releases hormones, neuroprotectives when you get cold, all kinds of stuff. But how I do it is I've taken a cold shower suck. The water's moving. I don't enjoy them. I don't do them. I could do it if I had to. If I had to, I would.
Cold showers aren't even. I mean, what is the water going to be?
They're more
50 degrees, 45 degrees, maybe.
But it's moving.
Really cold?
It's moving. You don't have a thermal barrier like you do in still water.
Yep.
I took a deep freeze and lined it with PVC shower liner, so it's just one continuous layer, and nothing too extreme, but there's ways to hold that. And then
so you bought a deep freezer. How big is it? What, 4 feet?
It's
across?
6 foot long.
6 foot long?
Wide,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I get in. I don't have to crouch. I lay back and.
That's what I want to find.
Up to my neck.
So
splash my face first because that makes it easier to get in.
Yeah, it's not going to leak.
No.
Right?
I unplug it before I get in. I don't leave it on all the time. There's what's called an ink bird. It's a manufacturer of a thermostat.
Wait a minute. You unplug it so you have it plugged in to keep the water cold.
When I get in, I unplug it.
Well, that's just my question. Is how does the water stay cold in the meantime? You know what I'm saying?
While you're in it?
No. Yeah, just in between uses.
Oh, well, I plug it back in.
And then the deep freeze is keeping the water frozen, or
no?
Is it above?
So that's where this external thermostat comes in. That you plug the deep freeze into the thermostat, and so it has a sensor that goes into the water, and you can set it for heating or cooling, but you put it on cooling and you can set the temperature that it wants, and so it's sensing the water on its own.
So when the water temperature
it's kicking on the deep freeze when it's time.
So when the water gets to, say, I don't know, whatever you set it at, 32 degrees, then
the deep freeze wants to freeze it no matter what. It's going to go below freezing, right?
Because I've searched for deep freezes that you can set the temperature at like 35 degrees. And I can't find it.
Yeah, you can't because it wouldn't be a deep freeze. It'd be a refrigerator.
But shouldn't a deep freeze have, I mean, like if there's a temperature, shouldn't there be obviously it wouldn't be a freeze, but shouldn't there be an option where you can keep it just above freezing? That's all I need.
For the cold plunge market?
Exactly. Which is a big market, surprisingly. Dude, if you Google I've been searching for an affordable way to accomplish this, and I can't. I'm like, there's,
I'd say it's probably $800.
Yeah.
$600 for a
do it
deep
yourself
freeze
is $800.
Yeah, but or $10,000 for one
no doubt.
that
you can go up to anywhere between $4,000 to $12,000 on the market for something that's going to fill up with water, keep it cold, but not freeze it, and be ready for you anytime you need it.
Yeah,
thousands and thousands of dollars. But $800, do it yourself.
Yeah. So all I have besides the Inkbird thermostat is a ozonator, which I run for 30 minutes when I'm out of it.
Okay.
Which keeps me from having to use chlorine, keeps the water clean.
What about salt?
So I do
Epsom salt.
I use Epsom salts.
Does that keep it clean, or what does that do?
So getting in the cold shock pulls magnesium from your bones. Your mitochondria and what your body uses to move and keep warm requires a lot of magnesium. So if you're not getting enough magnesium, the cold is extreme enough that it will literally pull it from your bones. So you have to be replacing that. So I take magnesium at night, one, because it's supposed to help you sleep and just muscle relaxation. But I also have Epsom salt in the water. And so when I get out, I don't dry off.
Yep.
I go straight to working out. I put my underwear on. It's wet. I'm naked in my cold tub, right? No reason to use a swimsuit. I'm the only one down there.
Yeah, as long as it's not in the backyard, your neighbors are watching.
I want my nuts to freeze because I'm 43. It's great. A pre-workout cool down is great,
Well, dude,
but it also keeps your testosterone up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you had undies or if you had swimsuit on or not, it's going to get cold, right? That's hilarious. I didn't even think of magnesium though. I did.
That's what's in Epsom salts.
So you're keeping it clean though with
the ozonator, and then which is really effective in cold water.